special day as we talk about Africa Day. African Day started on the founding of the OAU, and one of the things that I had such an honor in the 12 years I served in Congress, I had the opportunity to visit over 30 nations on the continent of Africa. I didn't get to all of them, but I got to 30. And I was honored on multiple occasions to be attending the African Union. And this flag of the African Union flew outside of my congressional office for many, many years. And what I love about the flag is that it has no lines, no lines. It represents the unity of Africa. I even had the opportunity to be in the African Union with President Barack Obama as he addressed the African Union, and we went to Ethiopia and we went to Kenya. And I've had so many experiences on the continent, and my goal when I was in Congress was to really promote U.S.-Africa relations, because many, many years ago, when we started Africa Day here in the 1970s, we called it African Liberation Day. And it's because many of us were working in the solidarity movement as the African nations were fighting for their independence. And many activists at the time fought to influence U.S. foreign policy to be on the right side in support of the independence movements. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to be in Congress was so I could actually go to Africa. While we were supporting the independence movements, none of us ever imagined having the money to actually travel to the continent. But as I mentioned, I had that opportunity many, many times. And when I got to Congress, I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do, what I could do, but I realized that promoting trade between the continent of Africa, instead of what people would have expected of me, which is to focus on the humanitarian issues, I realized that the conflicts and the humanitarian crises were rooted in economic issues. And that if the economies of the African countries could improve, if the economies could improve, the institutions would improve as well. And that the United States, instead of spending all of this time exporting foreign aid or even exporting food, which I thought was totally bizarre. Why would we send food all the way to the continent of Africa when Africa has the full capacity to feed itself? And so looking at ways that we could build the independence and capacity of African countries, I tried for many years to promote U.S. business involvement. I specifically wanted to promote African-American businesses to be involved in the continent. But what I realized is that the best way for that to happen is for African-American businesses to work with the diaspora. Because the diaspora knows the continent and African-Americans don't know the continent, which is why we all claim Ghana, we claim Nigeria, we claim all of Africa, because we don't know where our African roots are from. Right? I did do my DNA though, so I did find out that my African roots were Cameroon. Oh, yeah. Cameroon's in the house. And I'm wearing Nigeria, but you know. No lines. There you go. No lines. I love that concept. But the Cameroonian diaspora ordered me to go to Cameroon, so I absolutely did that. But you know, now serving in this capacity, I want to figure out how we continue along the same ways. I think for Angelenos to understand the diversity of the diaspora that lives in Los Angeles, one of the things I saw in the campaign that was just so exciting was the entrepreneurship, especially in the younger generation. Where's Dylan? Where's Dylan? I know Dylan is. Oh, there he is. There he is. Dylan organized these events with all of these young Africans, and what blew me away about the events is that none of them had an employer. Everybody was self-employed, running their own businesses, very successful, very well educated. And so how do we build on that? And how do we promote U.S.-Africa trade in Los Angeles? So my little plan here is that everybody knows UNGA. UNGA is going to happen in September, the United Nations General Assembly. And all of the heads of state of the whole world travel to New York, and all of the African heads of state travel to New York. And so what I plan to lobby is to see, instead of just going from New York to Washington, D.C. and going back to the continent, either come to LA first with Namibians and promote the idea of U.S. entertainment industry connections to the country of Namibia. And I think that we can do that in a lot of different places. You know, in the next couple of years, AGOA expires, the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. I had the honor of fighting and winning for the extension of the African Growth and Opportunity Act. That is our #1 vehicle in which we trade with the continent of Africa. And so even though it's a couple of years away, we have to start working and promoting that and making sure that members of Congress understand that AGOA has to be extended again, and we can play a role in doing that. So I'm going to look for every opportunity. Thank you. I'm going to look for every opportunity that I can find in this role as the mayor of Los Angeles to lift up the diaspora, to promote trade between the United States and the continent of Africa. And I would love to ask everyone here to join me in that effort. Thank you so much for coming today. Please enjoy yourself, and we will look forward to continuing this. And this will become an annual event as long as I'm